Abbey is a Catholic, Anglican, or Orthodox Christian monastery or convent. Abbeys typically fall under the authority of an abbot or an abbess who serves as the spiritual father or mother of the community. The term can also refer to a former abbey. Origins. The formation of monastic communities dates back to pre-Christian times, as witnessed by the Essenes. The earliest known Christian monasteries consisted of groups of huts built near the location of a famous ascetic or other holy person. As these communities of disciples grew, they attracted people who desired to study the ascetic's doctrine and imitate his or her way of life. In the earliest age of Christian monasticism, the ascetics were accustomed to living alone. Ascetics would typically live near a village church, supporting themselves while also donating their excess food to the poor. Increasing religious fervor and persecution drove them farther and farther away from civilization into solitude. The deserts of Egypt hosted some of the cells, or huts of these anchorites. Antony the Great, who had retired to the Egyptian Abbey during the persecution of Maximian AD 312, was the most celebrated among them for his austerity, sanctity, and reputed power as an exorcist. His fame attracted followers, and the deeper he withdrew into the wilderness, the more numerous his disciples became. They refused to be separated from him, and built their cells around that of their spiritual father. Thus arose the first monastic community, consisting of anchorites living each in his own little dwelling, united together under one superior. Antony, according to Johann August Wilhelm Neander, inadvertently became the founder of a new mode of living in common, Coenobitism. Pachomius at Abbey on the Nile, in Upper Egypt, St. Pachomius laid the foundations for the coenobitical life by arranging everything in an organized manner. He built several monasteries, each containing about 1,600 separate cells laid out in lines as an encampment, where the monks slept and performed some of their manual tasks. There were large halls for their common needs, such as the church, refectory, kitchen, infirmary and a guest house. An enclosure protecting all these buildings gave the settlement the appearance of a walled village. It was this monastery layout, inaugurated by St. Pachomius, which finally spread throughout Palestine and came to be called the Laura, meaning lanes or alleys. In addition to these congregations of solitaries, all living in huts apart, there were canobia, monasteries wherein the inmates lived a common life, none of them being permitted to retire to the cells of a Laura before they had therein undergone a lengthy period of training. In time this form of common life superseded that of the older Laura. Palladius, who visited the Egyptian monasteries about the close of the 4th century, found among the 300 members of the Coenobium at Panopolis, under the Pachomian rule, 15 tailors, 7 smiths, 4 carpenters, 12 camel drivers and 15 tanners. Each separate community had its own oeconomos or steward, who was subject to a chief steward stationed at the head establishment. All the produce of the monks' labor was committed to him, and by him shipped to Alexandria. The money raised by the sale was expended in the purchase of stores for the support of the communities, and what was over was devoted to charity. Twice in the year the superiors of the several coenobia met at the chief monastery, under the presidency of an archimandrite, and at the last meeting gave in reports of their administration for the year. Details concerning the coenobia in the vicinity of Antioch are found in the writings of Chrysostom. The monks lived in separate huts, Calbia, forming a religious hamlet on the mountainside. They were subject to an abbot, and observed a common rule. Great Lavra, Mount Athos, the necessity for defense from attacks, economy of space and convenience of access from one part of the community to another, by degrees dictated a more compact and orderly arrangement of the buildings of a monastic coenobium. Large piles of building were erected, with strong outside walls, capable of resisting the assaults of an enemy, within which all the necessary edifices were arranged round one or more open courts, usually surrounded with cloisters. The usual Eastern arrangement is exemplified in the plan of the convent of the Great Lavra, Mount Athos. This monastery, like the Oriental monasteries generally, is surrounded by a strong and lofty, blank stone wall, enclosing an area of between 3 and 4 acres. The longer side extends to a length of about 500 feet. There is only one main entrance, on the north side, defended by 3 separate iron doors. Near the entrance is a large tower, a constant feature in the monasteries of the Levant. There is a small postern gate at L. The enceinte comprises 2 large open courts, surrounded with buildings connected with cloister galleries of wood or stone. Immediately adjacent to the gateway is a 2-storied guest house, opening from a cloister. The inner court is surrounded by a cloister, from which open the monks' cells. In the center of this court stands the Catholican or conventual church, a square building with an apse of the cruciform domical Byzantine type, approached by a domed narthex. In front of the church stands a marble fountain, covered by a dome supported on columns, opening from the western side of the cloister, but actually standing in the outer court, is the refectory, a large cruciform building, about 100 feet each way, decorated within with frescoes of saints. At the upper end is a semicircular recess, recalling the triclinium of the Lateran Palace at Rome, in which is placed the seat of the hegemonos or abbot. This apartment is chiefly used as a hall of meeting, the Oriental monks usually taking their meals in their separate cells.